timelines, and like it's so fascinating because we just watched the season finale a couple days ago, and in that season finale, spoiler alert,
Just don't. You think you're just allowed to spoil something just by saying spoiler alert? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is Alaji. I'm here with Meghan Yuri Young, and we're back with another episode of Soul. Megan, if you would like to introduce yourself, you can give it a go here.
We were just talking about this. I'm in media, writer by trade, and I don't know, through curiosity and gut instincts, I kind of fell into social media, and heartbreak led me into mental health, and so I've somehow weaved all of my interests with storytelling and psychology, because as we said earlier, I double majored in psych and English and made this kind of random career where I just connect, and it's really based on community, and yeah, it's just a mishmash of things. 6 years ago, I started struggling within a marriage. I had been with my partner for 12 years, married for 3, and really, really loved and adored him, but it was tied to somewhat my career. Yeah. I just kind of started to see where my career path could go. And I got cold feet, but it really dredged up a lot of other stuff, and just before actually we made the decision to separate, I had already started the SAD Collective. I was already struggling. It was really tough, like making that decision to leave, because he was a great man. There was nothing wrong. It was just more self-discovery. And yeah, and that's how the SAD Collective was born. And it was also actually co-founded by a friend who's kind of moved on and done her own thing. She's like lived in Australia since, but Facility Marapis. And she was also going through heartbreak. And we leaned into our storytelling media side. And then fast forward to now, it's been so amazing to see how people have connected through the SAD Collective, how we've kept conversations going, how there's been so many fun, programming and like virtual initiatives, and really just elevating the great work that's being done in the city. Yeah, we are at the end of the day a media company, and we love to elevate what other people are doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the SAD Collective seems like a platform that's really good for a lot of people. For my generation, we're quite open about mental health and anxiety and things of that nature. Compared to other generations, though, I don't think they're as open. Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's such a shift in being open about your mental health issues, especially with people who are part of Gen Z?
I think that comes from watching the mental health movement grow over the last 5-6 years. It's so amazing to see how powerful conversation is, how powerful awareness is. That then trickles into education and knowledge, normalization, which these are all buzzwords now, right? I see this so much, especially recently. Social media has stripped words of meaning. Like we say balance, we say self-care, we say mental health, I even hate saying those words. But it's true, like these things are becoming so normal that it has trickled now to your generation.
And so now, with that being said, there's still people in my generation who tend to be very to themselves. So they deal with a lot of mental health issues and they're not willing to open up. So for somebody who's in that space, what advice could you give somebody who's a little bit hesitant and not willing to share what battles they may be dealing with?
You don't have to shout in the world what you're going through. Yeah. You can speak to a friend. You can write it in a diary even. A lot of it is we bury it in ourselves. Like we don't even acknowledge or admit that we're struggling. So not to make it that a whole different conversation, but in terms of anyone who is struggling to open up to someone, I'm positive there is something that they may not have thought of, and it could start within themselves, writing it out, and then it can lead to speaking to a friend, even a stranger, a connection, on a TTC bus or something,
you never know.
To something more, to something like me, what I did, and I'm very open to a fault sometimes.
You've got a friend in me.
So you say things like you got to be careful of like using words like shit, right? So how important is use of language to you? I think some people are a little they slip with like the types of words they use, and it kind of maybe dictates what happens. So what do you think about language and its importance?
This is actually one of my favorite. This is such a great question. I mean, communication is where, you know, wars are started, fights, breakups, our own negative self-talk, right? When we look at ourselves in the mirror and we say nasty words to ourselves, and then on top of that, misinterpreting words and maybe not having the best diction, right? Like not having the words readily. And then when you're emotional, not knowing what to say. Like I actually discovered that when I'm emotional, I will, especially when I was younger, I'm very mean. Not only am I not rational, I actually get angry and like I say mean things. So what I have to do now, and not everyone likes it, is I actually have to take a step back. But funny enough, friends and family don't appreciate that sometimes because they want to resolve it now. But I'm like, unfortunately, it's not going to get resolved now because I'm going to get very angry. Like it's just not. That's the only way so far. I've like, now I need to probably work to the next stage of like actually keeping cool-headed and being able to talk in the moment. And I'll just leave it at this because I don't want to run on too much, is my definition of love, for instance, like there's a, sorry, I just touched the mic again. There is like a dictionary definition of love, right? And this was actually an example given to me by, I was moderating a panel on gender identity and expression, and Beardance, an amazing drag queen, she said this. She was like, my definition of love is not only the dictionary definition, but it's also my past experiences of love. Some of that is toxic love, some of that is parental love, some of that, whatever my experiences of love have been echoing in the past to now. And then your definition of love is literally your experiences of love throughout your life, and you have all your different expressions. So when we say we love each other, or you say it to a partner or a friend or a family member, you're actually saying two different words. Right? Yeah. That blew my mind. And that was when I actually understood the power of language. It's a double-edged sword, self-awareness, because again, no one's perfect. And so I feel like she's the same as me, for instance, in that actually a lot of my friends are this way. I'm very, very lucky. We're all super aware, but it doesn't mean we change our actions. It doesn't mean that we're better for it necessarily. Sometimes what it means, I do think we're better for it, but sometimes we're just torturing ourselves because we see it. Oh my God, yeah. We're like, oh my gosh, this is how I should be doing, but I'm still doing the completely opposite. Yeah. Or I'm still like literally yelling horrible words at my boyfriend. Or, you know, even Curry will piss me off once in a while. I'm like, she doesn't mean it, she's just a puppy. Yeah. So self-awareness is huge though. And I remember also saying to her this week that I wouldn't have it any other way, because those who, you know, ignorance is bliss.
I was about to say that.
It's not though, right?
Yeah, it's not.
Because you feel tortured and you don't know why.
That self-awareness and that reflection, at the age that I'm at right now, I think there's a certain time when a shift happened for me, and I still understand that I have like ways to go. For you personally, when do you think that shift kind of happened, where you started to become more aware of your actions?
So I think, I've never thought about it this way, but I think me trusting my gut, my instincts, is awareness. Yes. It's like I always chose the path that I wanted to be on. So like I was in journalism at Ryerson for 1 year, and I was like, nope, this is not for me. Actually, I want to be a psychiatrist. Yeah. So then I went to U of T, and then 1 year into psychology, I'm like, nope, I want to be a writer again. Yeah. So I like interned at all these magazines, but I still wanted to finish that degree because I loved psychology. I just didn't want to do any more schooling. So anyhow, it's just like, I think I've always been self-aware, but that again doesn't mean that I made the right choices or did the right things or said the right things. Yeah.
That sounds like courage also matched with intuition. I think like a lot of people are they kind of know sometimes what move to make, but because of like the consequences that may come with it, they decide to be a little hesitant. Like one of my biggest issues is being hesitant. It's like I know I should be doing something, and I decide not to do it, and I can literally feel it eating at me, but like the lack of courage stops me from making a particular move. So you sound like someone who's courageous, being able to go to school, change, and then change again. People in the back of their mind are probably gonna be like, nah, but what if this, what if that? So how come you don't have a what if in those types of situations? Is that something that's like natural to you?
I think it's natural to me. I mean, I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and I talk about it, but I don't talk about it. Like, I write about it, but I won't release. But I'll say it here. I think, so I come from a divorced family where I was like the oldest child, and I had a lot of independence because I realize now, like, the way divorced families work is, you know, especially if both parents have custody, they have to let go of the kids because, right, they have to let go of like worrying so much because half the time the kid is with the other parent, right? I can only imagine, like, if I had a child, like, not having them around and you like, what are they doing? Are they safe? Blah, blah, blah. You have to kind of like let that go. So I had that type of independence from a divorced family. And then I had like a traumatic experience in my teens. And I learned this thing actually only in the last 3 years. So PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. I learned about post-traumatic growth.
Okay.
Yeah, never heard about this thing before, but it's like where you go through a very traumatic experience and you grow through it. And it's not to say that either one is better. I mean, I can imagine obviously the growth part is better and easier. It's still hard, but I think that experience and just like kind of going right back into life, I think that, and being I think like a bad thing happened the night I got asked out by a boy that I really liked. And 3 days later, I went on a date with him. And I just remember being like, choices. Like, you can choose to control what happens. You can choose to control your narrative. But like, how do you have grace and compassion for yourself and then understand, like, maybe it's just not now, or there's other reasons. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're like working on this project. Is this project a distraction from what you actually want to do? So there's so many other questions, and I don't think it all comes down to courage. I do think life in itself is like a good enough excuse, so long as you're not hiding. Yeah.
And here's kind of the problem. I don't really necessarily know, for example, like when I'm hiding and when I'm not, right? So it's almost like a part of me would love if there was somebody like behind me who was always like letting me know about my moves and what they actually mean. You know, like, is
a
this
cheat
the right?
sheet.
Oh, it would be wonderful, but I don't have that.
No one has that.
I know. No
one has that. I don't know. I think there's beauty in mystery, and I think that's a young thing to say. Just like I think it's not that you're young. I think you're very this whole production is amazing, but I do think that's with age you'll understand that it's okay not to know, and you'll be excited by that.
And last question is ultimately, like, what do you think your soul yearns for?
My soul? To be understood. I think my soul yearns for, I think it'll always be about belonging. Yeah, belonging in a world and like the universe, friend groups, being understood, being loved, be through that understanding. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
It's pretty beautiful, if you ask me. I think that was beautiful. All right, Megan, thank you very much for doing this.
Yay.
I appreciate it.
No, I'm so glad. I canceled on you like 3 times. I'm so glad. I did
We're
it.
cutting that out. We're not keeping that in there.
Hey, want me to start that
bad,
again?
Eh? No, it's okay. You might have to keep it in there just for some authenticity.
Do you want to plug your social media or any projects you're working on real quick?
Okay. So if you want, you can follow me at Meghan Yuri Young, and definitely follow at The Sad Collective. I'm actually really terrible at posting on there, but I have an intern who's going to be taking over shortly, and it's also where you're going to find more details on SOFT, which is a therapy grant that we have. We launched officially about a month ago, but it's still a soft launch, pun actually not intended at all. And we'll open up applications for that therapy grant in 2022.
it came at a point where I was like, okay, I'm doing something creative. I'm having fun. People like it. And I'm not saying that this is right, but it gave me a sense of self-worth because I was getting validated by other people for the thing that I was creating.
Yeah.
And so at the time I was like, okay, this is like helping. It's helping me build my confidence back up and helping with my self-worth, and that's where it came out of. And then it just became fun, and I was like, I think I could do this as like a side hustle.